Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today's guest is Sherry Girard, and I guess we might call you kind of an animal bounty hunter, except without pay.
Correct.
Now, what is your actual title and the name of the business?
Our group, which is a new group, is called the Northeast Kingdom Lost Pets Recovery.
Right.
I don't really have a title other than I'm a volunteer with this group. We're a small group. There's only 4 of us. We're still evolving, and we came together out of need for a couple of lost dogs in Orleans County.
Right. You know, I recently, I followed a couple of your escapades, I guess you could call them, searches, and one of them just recently, was it 28 days, the newly adopted shepherd was on the run?
Yes, that was Dice down in Burke. He was adopted from Riverside Rescue. He's a 10-year-old German shepherd, and within 2 hours of being in his new home, he got loose. Because he had no bonds or attachments to his new owner or that area, he was on the run.
Right. What kind of dog was he otherwise? Like, was he a dog that, if he'd been with his original owners, would have run, or is it just because he was with new people?
You know, Riverside Rescue actually is the one that had him in their care, so I don't have a lot of information about that. However, when dogs go missing, when they feel panicked or stressed, a lot of dogs will kind of revert to more of those primal instincts of dogs. And for Dice, it was to run, find safety, shelter, food, and water. And that's what he did for 28 days.
Right. And then I know I see it all over Facebook. People were following it. And then there was, I believe, you and others telling people don't approach.
Yes.
And but then you set up cages for these animals.
We do. Our group is actually set up to just function within Orleans County because we're such a small group. However, we were called upon by the animal control officer, Candace Dane, and in turn Riverside Rescue to bring down, we call it our Aaliyah trap. It's a 6x10 kennel that's been converted to a trap.
Right.
Because they didn't have access to anything other than a box, have a heart trap, and he was a large dog. So 2 of our volunteers transported it down, worked with Candace and Sharon from Riverside Rescue in how to bring a lost dog to safety. And the one thing people don't realize, when a dog goes lost, your first instinct is, let's get a bunch of people, let's start searching. Charlie, where are you? And that will actually drive the dog out of their safety zone. When a dog goes missing, oftentimes they stay within a 2 or 3 mile radius unless they're pushed out. They feel threatened by either search parties or people calling out.
Right. I know when I was younger, I grew up with hound dogs, and
Yes.
hound dogs are notorious of disappearing. But I had hunting dogs, and what we'd always do is, if at the end of the hunt, one of them didn't come back, and we looked, you'd leave a jacket there, and I don't know if it was 9 times out of 10, but it was pretty high that you'd come back, and it would be laying on the jacket.
That would be the first rule of thumb for people that are, and a lot of lost dogs become lost on hiking trips.
Right.
So whether it's a hound or any other dog, the first thing we would say is leave articles of clothing with your scent on it. So not freshly washed shirts, something you've worn. So yes, we always tell people, put out articles of clothing with your scent.
Right. And I also, on the topic of scent, I've heard that that if you get cat disappears, and if it is still alive, because I do become targets of predators, is to leave your cat litter box outside. Is there any truth in that?
That's actually a myth. And what happens is, if you think about a cat, they bury, when they use their cat box, they bury their urine or whatever else they deposit to hide the scent. So when you put the cat box out, it's actually can be in many instances a lure for other predators who smell a cat.
Right.
So definitely not. We don't advise that.
Right. You know, one thing I've seen and I've actually experienced is the days of social media has actually, I think, has helped people find their pets at least quicker. Like we have 2 golden retrievers, and they have a tendency not to wander, and little help of the fence. But if they know it's turned off for a while, they'll still just, they don't wander, because Goldens, for the most part, aren't wandering dogs like beagles. But one time our neighbors were setting off some fireworks while we were gone, and went right out the back, right out through the screen, and headed out. One of them came back, and then and was out front when we got back. The other one, so I put out on Facebook, is Pine Hill Golden Retriever. Then
I remember your post.
Yeah, and next thing, it was Don and Shirley Nelson, who lives a couple of houses up. Okay, I saw her headed that direction, and so I drove up the road. I hollered, and then he went up the road to his nephew Richard's house, which would be cutting off her track. And next thing we knew, here comes Dawn down the road in the dark, very slow, with a golden retriever walking in front of him, because she wouldn't get in the car. And then there was another incident a couple summers ago. We don't have many neighbors, so all of a sudden this little dog was following me around in the yard, just a little thing. And so I put on Facebook, and it wasn't more than a minute that somebody who was house sitting down the road about a quarter of a mile or half mile said, "That's our dog." And I was thinking about stopping, and I said, "No, that dog could not have got that far that quick." And there it was.
Well, Facebook in particular probably has a lot of people who have negative thoughts about it, but I would have to say that Facebook in particular is one of the most important tools in reuniting pets. Yep. It's amazing. I think when a dog goes missing, one of the number one thing you want to do is to generate sightings, to figure out where is this dog. And when you put a post on Facebook, it is amazing the information that comes in. We had a beagle on Sunday that was across from my house on Route 5, and appeared to be very frightened. A woman stopped. She came to my house. I gave her some treats. I watched this dog stand on his hind legs and try to crawl over the top of a 4-strand wire fence. Then somebody sent me a post and said, "Is this a dog?" I said, "Yes, it is." So I contacted the owner. She said he's afraid of strangers. I posted the dog. I said, "Do not call out. Do not pursue. Please call the owner." That night, about 5:30 or 6 o'clock, the dog had been gone more than a day at that point. One person called the owner and said, "I saw your dog on I-91 in Derby Line." The owner went up. I gave her some tips. She went up. She got eyes on the dog. He was definitely frightened, scared, was not going to come to her. She got down low. She didn't make eye contact. She talked in a quiet, coaxing voice. She used the phrase, "You want to go for a ride, Jack?" And it was like a switch. And she mentioned it was like a switch. That dog came running, jumped into her car. Had we not had Facebook to put that post and gotten that one sighting, I don't know how long that dog would be out running.
I know years ago we had a dog that almost met her demise because she was out hunting and she didn't come back. And actually, we started from our house, so she'd gotten, I don't know how far she'd gotten in like 3 or 4 days. It was horrible weather, but by the time she'd almost gotten back home, She was on the interstate when somebody picked her up, and she was all dazed and confused.
Yeah.
And she probably should have gone to the vets that night because she was obviously hypothermic. But I wrapped her up with me, and that dog never, ever, I don't know what the dog remembers, that dog never ran off again. And it was the best because it was a traumatic experience, and somehow it was etched in that dog's mind.
Well, I think when a dog goes missing, an owner needs to keep a few things in mind. First, get the word out. Posters, Facebook, get the word out, generate sightings. The owner can go to the location of a sighting, but a search party often spooks the dog.
Right.
So we tell an owner, if you get eyes on your dog, get low, don't make eye contact, use a low voice, familiar phrases. Sometimes that works. It's worked in the instance of a little pug from here in Newport that had been missing for 10 days. Other dogs, like Dice, like another one that we had to trap in Charleston, they go into what is called survival mode. When a dog goes into survival mode, they only have 4 things on their mind. Survival mode is kind of that most primal instinct in a dog. Safety and from predators and oftentimes humans, including their owners. And that's really tough things for owners to really come to grips with. Oh, it's my dog, he'll come to me, or oh my God, my dog didn't come to me. So they're searching for safety, shelter, food, and water. When a dog is in survival mode, the trick is to then get them to settle down. And that means don't pursue them, don't call out to them. We then encourage, or we do it ourselves, we set up what we call a bait station. And it's filled with yummy food, smelly, wet food like Vienna sausages, beef stew, hot chicken, not dry food, something that's going to draw the scent. And Granite State, who is kind of our go-to group that's really given us a lot of guidance, uses liquid smoke. I'm not sure what it is about liquid smoke, but it's a dog magnet. So what we want to get at that point is we get the food station set up and we set up a game camera. And we're trying to establish that pattern of return. We want the dog to come back. So it's the same time of day that you fill the food station. It's usually we try to have only one person, so it's their scent. They go, they put food, and they leave. With the game camera, and I bought one myself personally, it sends pictures to my phone. Right. So I can see when that dog, first of all, I can see if the dog is the one eating, because we have raccoons that like to feed on the food. We have cats, neighborhood dogs. So we want to see, is the lost dog taking the bait? Once we can get that pattern of return established, we then put up a trap. And whether it's our 6x10 Aaliyah trap, kennel trap, or whether it's a box trap, a have a heart trap, we'll set that, we'll leave it open, we'll move the bait to it, and the end result is we want the dog obviously to go into the trap and bring him to safety.
How does it feel when you look at your game camera, the photo from it, and you see the dog after?
It's kind of bittersweet because most of a couple of our dogs, they're usually nighttime photos. And Aaliyah, who was lost out in Charleston for 3 weeks in winter, December, January, she had a harness when she went missing, and you could actually see her ribs. So it gives you a sense of urgency and panic to get this dog to safety. And you can't rush it. You have to be patient. And I am one of those let's get it done people. But I've learned through this process, it's about patience and taking it on the dog's terms. Dice was another one. Dice, the German Shepherd in Burke, lost 42 pounds. Ooh. He was in tough shape. He had some porcupine quills. We knew we had to get him to safety. Riverside Rescue, Sharon's husband, built a second kennel trap, took pictures of ours where it was set up, and they set up a second one and were able to get him. But we knew with those 2 dogs in particular, we needed to get them to safety quickly.
So that must have been a good feeling, though.
It was. We had a little 10-year-old poodle mix this summer, came up with a family from Maryland. to a camp out up in Island Pond, and way on the back road. Well, long and short of it, somebody let the 2 dogs out. One came back, one didn't. The family stayed for a week, totally distraught about this little dog. I'm not sure how I got involved, but of course I did, and I reached out to the family. They had to leave. I assured them that we would take this on, and that little dog was missing for 17 days, 10 pounds, running between Island Pond and the town of Charleston. Back roads, main roads, people would see it, then it'd be gone. It found our bait station. It checked out our trap. And when we finally did get this little dog, and we did get it after 17 days, the family wasn't able to come up right away. I mean, it was from Maryland. So the dog came to stay with myself and my husband. We took it to a vet. We took it to a groomer. I have to tell you, I really like that, because a lot of times we put so much heart, so much time and energy in bringing these dogs to safety, and then they go off with their owner. And we've got an investment in this dog.
They must have been appreciative.
They were very appreciative. Tears of joy, pictures of the children being reunited. One of our traps malfunctioned. They gave us money to buy a new trap. They told us, that we had taught their children to have faith in humanity and kindness. It was a great feeling to actually have that dog and get to know it for a couple of days.
I got to tell you a funny story about feed and traps, in a sense, is a little off the topic, but I think I live about in back of the prison by about half a mile. And back in my beagle days, because beagles are the happiest.
They think with their noses.
And well, we Kathleen Landman used to be the commandant of the prison, who I got along with great. And Kathleen called me up again, Scott, your beagles are down here again. Can you come down and get them? And after about 3-4 times, I was talking to Kathleen. I said, I don't understand this. I said, why are they? And then I got to talking to the guy who did roving patrols.
He was feeding them.
Yeah, he got lonely, and so he'd load him into the vehicle, and he's now passed. The fella has, but he'd get lonely, put the dogs in, feed him his sandwiches, and even though the beagles ate very well, they thought, hey, prison,
fun adventure,
good, and so every time they got loose, there they'd go right down. So I made an agreement with her. I said, all right, Kathleen, I'm going to make a deal. I'll keep my dogs in their yard. My yard, you keep your criminals in their. And it wasn't a week later they had the prison escape. And I called her up as and Kathleen's all stressed. I says, you didn't keep your end of the bargain. What do you mean, Scott? I says, we had an agreement. I keep my beagles up here. You keep your boys down here. And look, you've had an escape. And but no, that's my little story about baiting. Is the well-intentioned guard was baiting my dogs.
Well, we had a chocolate lab go missing from Derby Line this summer. His name was JJ. He actually was 6 years old. He belonged to a breeder who was downsizing. And the breeder had sold it to a couple in Derby Line, and they had the dog about 2 weeks, and the dog went missing. So it was probably, and they came right over to my house. I got him posted. It was probably a week, and he was seen on I-91 down towards Derby. The next sightings we got was he was out behind McDonald's.
Right.
And funny part of it is the new owner worked at McDonald's. So we immediately got a food station set up for the dog there. Then we started getting sightings about a dog over on East Main Street, Indian Point Street, Maple Street, wandering, and we're like, can this be the same dog? Can his circle be that big? Well, what we found out with the bait station in Derby through our camera was he was not accessing the food. It was the blackbirds and crows. They ate really well for about a week. So that dog stayed down. It made it from Derby Line via the interstate, and then we're figuring probably Route 5, shot a kill. and it stayed down in the Newport area. Its safe place became the cemetery. And that's where he slept. So I contacted Frank Ornsby with the Eastside Cemetery Association, asked him if we could put up our kennel trap. And luckily they had a spot way down in the back that wasn't near any of the gravestones and that. We could set it up. It was quiet. We worked 6 weeks to bring that dog back to safety. He watched me every morning. I would walk in. We always take the same path in. And he would be at a distance, and he would watch me, and he'd walk the outside perimeter. I'd go in. I'd put his food in. First, we started with the bait station, then the kennel. He'd watch me go in at a distance. He'd sit on a little hill. I'd leave, and as I'd look back, and he would go to eat. He would come within 4 feet of me at times. But the minute you made a movement or a noise, he was gone. We tried everything to bring this dog to safety. The kennel trap misfired once, and Labs are really smart, and he figured it out. And we could see on our game camera, when you set the trap, the door is halfway closed, and you would see him walk in and look up at that door. He knew that door was going to slam, and he wouldn't go in when it was set. So finally, after 6 weeks, I mean, we were at a loss as to whether we were going to bring this dog back to safety. And he was in rough shape, not as I'd been feeding him well, so at least he'd put some weight on. I contacted a local vet who told me who the breeder was. So I called the breeder and said, hey, do you have a female dog in heat? We don't know what else to do. And the breeder was like, I can't believe nobody's called me. I don't need another dog. That dog will come to me. Well, the dog ran the first time he went down. And he went down a second time, unbeknownst to us. We saw him on the camera. That's how we knew he was there. And the dog ran. They walked. They got sight of him. The woman, the wife, laid down on her stomach and started calling to him. And he barked and he barked. He came a little closer and he barked. And she just was really patient. She talked low, stayed on her stomach. And the dog finally did a belly crawl over to her. 6 weeks we were going back and forth.
What is there, what's the outcome, though, for these dogs? Like, I guess Dice was just adopted.
Yes.
Do they reform? Well, that dog didn't have bond.
Reacclimate. When they're in survival mode, once you bring them to safety, some dogs it's within an hour, some dogs it's within 2 hours, but it's like that switch in the brain goes off and they become your same old pet.
Right. Now what about cats? Because I believe that there's a certain amount of cats that disappear that are not coming back because they've become dinner.
Yeah.
But you say some cats actually can be found.
Absolutely, and we do find many cats. We have small box traps, and what we tell people is, especially an indoor cat that gets out, they don't go far. They stay close. They hide low. We tell them look under cars, outbuildings, decks, porches. Look at night with a flashlight because their eyes absorb the light. Put food out. And we catch many of them with our small have-a-heart box traps.
Right. I know it seems, though, but do you agree that some of them do probably fall victim to predators?
I absolutely do. The 10-year-old poodle, I had a guy say, hey, I have 17 koi dogs. That dog's was dinner for somebody. So I think many people jump to the assumption, especially whether it's a small dog or a cat, that predators have got it. Cats are amazing. I mean, they'll be gone for weeks, and you open your door, and there they are, like they just went out this morning.
Yeah.
So I always say, whether it's your cat or your dog, don't give up hope. They're out there. They're waiting for us to find them.
Yeah. We've had obviously good luck on finding dogs. When our cats have gone up missing. Like we lost one cat, and we never found it, and we have no idea what happened because that cat was, I won't say it was a feral cat, but it was so paranoid to leave the house.
Yeah.
And it would sit on the deck, and that's it. And one day, it's no longer there. We never saw it again.
Hard saying, not knowing with cats, whether they move on, they found a better place in their mind to live, whether they, get lost because they're wandering, whether a predator gets them. But it just shouldn't be your first jump to,
Right.
something's happened. You should always try to recover them.
And isn't it also important to people that if somebody finds a dead pet, as in, they'd been run over, like I was talking to a friend who, from Derby Line, who she posted, I'm not sure if it was days before social media, that she had lost her cat, and she lived on Pilo Hill, and somebody called her and said, well, just to let you know, I know where your cat is. It's on the interstate. Yeah. As in, it'd been and she didn't like that fact, but it provided.
Well, I think we all need closure. Yeah. So absolutely. So I think, if you see a lost dog, if you see it, say something, post it, contact your local animal control, reach out to us through our Facebook page, Northeast NEK, Lost Pets Recovery.
The one thing I can't believe people do, and I know they do it, I can't believe that somebody'd have a pet and then dump it off the side of the road. Mm-hmm. I know that's a different topic, but that's such a bizarre concept to me. Every once in a while, I've taken my 10-year-old golden siblings, and I've suggested that, I said, there's a place called the Frontier Animal Society for you.
You mean the Pope Memorial Frontier Animal Society?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And, but I would never do it.
I have been actually with Pope Memorial Shelter for 20-plus years.
Right.
And I have to say, maybe 15 years ago, we had more drop-off type dogs found on the interstate, found on a back road. It doesn't happen as frequently. We just recently had our employees went into work, our building is fenced, they opened the gate, cardboard box, opened it up, and a little dog jumped out of it. Was there really any need to just kind of toss him over the fence like that? No, simple phone call, and we would have taken the animal. So we really don't find a lot of drop-offs anymore, which I'm really pleased to say. People reach out to our shelter now.
Our final cat, and she'll probably be our final cat now that her brother met his demise, her non-biological brother, but we got her because somebody was kind enough, and I say that sarcastically, to throw her and her siblings off the side of the road in a plastic bag, and somebody found them, and so that was several years ago, and she's lived the life of a queen.
Yeah,
and.
It's sad when people feel like, people's life circumstances change, and there's many reasons why people decide they can't keep a pet, whether it be a cat or a dog. But there's always options. Right. Our shelter is always open to taking in cats and dogs and kittens.
Well, what you ought to do is you ought to come on again, and we'll talk about the Pope Frontier. Right.
Pope Memorial Frontier Animal
All right,
Shelter.
I got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're just about wrapped up. How if somebody loses a dog here in Orleans County, how can they contact your group?
They can reach out to me through Facebook, Sherry Girard, or they can message me through Facebook at NEK, Lost Pets Recovery.
Right. And can they contact you at the Animal Society? Or is that different?
Because I'm not there on a daily basis, so their job is to work with and adopt out animals, and, this is kind of a separate entity. Not that they wouldn't help out or give them information on how to contact us.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for coming on, and hopefully I won't need your services. Our Goldens, as rambunctious as they are at 10 years old, they're homebodies. And they're pretty much afraid of their own shadows. But you do great work. I've been following it on Facebook, and it makes for a great drama mini-series, too, watching you guys post.
Well, thanks for having me, and hopefully nobody will need our services. And but if you do, reach out through Facebook.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.